Internets! Hello, you lovelies, and welcome to This Week in Comics. This week in comics, we got some giant news as Destin Daniel Cretton of Shang-Chi has joined Spider-Man 4 officially as the director. What does this mean for Shang-Chi 2? What does this mean for the overall MCU? I think this has giant ramifications. Going to talk all about it. Also, speaking of Sony, we had the Venom The Last Dance trailer drop this morning, hopefully about an hour ago, if I was able to edit this quickly. Going to be talking all about that trailer and some Spider-Man quotes from Andrew Garfield, some Spider-Verse rumors, lots of Spider-Man stuff this week. And speaking of This Week in Comics, this show particularly, I dive into all the books that came out last week. So, the comics that dropped on September 4th, I read about 70 comics a week, and I give you my 9 favorites from that week, and I try to make them more approachable, trying to get people into the comic store. So if you're new to this page, we talk movies, we talk comics, we review, we give news, we do all sorts of stuff, but this show in particular is about the books themselves, as well as the news, and then I preview the comics that are dropping today, or I guess yesterday, at your local shop, the week of September 11th, 2024. So, if you like any of that, stay tuned. This is This Week in Comics.
Let's do the list. Spider-Man.
Guilty.
The Incredible Hulk.
Afraid so.
Oh man, this is so cool. The X-Men.
Now that you mention it.
It is bright and early in the morning. We just got our final Venom The Last Dance trailer. Going to talk all about the trailer in a second, but I got to talk about the biggest reveal of that trailer. We got confirmation of Knull. Now, if you're a comic nerd, you're probably freaking out, but if you don't know who Knull is the biggest villain in the world of Venom. Knull invented the symbiotes. Knull basically ruled the planet of Clintar after inventing these symbiotes. He's a literal eldritch god. So the Celestials, who you saw in the Eternals, who you're going to see more of leading into the MCU, invaded his void of darkness, and in bringing light to darkness, he killed a Celestial with the Necro Sword, which bonded him to that god entity and to the sword itself, giving him even more power. He was then bestowed the honor of being the King in Black, which he turned down, basically ruling darkness. He's like, nah, I'm good. The man invented symbiotes and formed this hive, wherein the symbiotes, when they bond to any creature, they have a codec where it stores all of that data, basically creating like a soul, a memory, an identity of that thing, and this hive stores all of those codecs, giving Knull the ability to access basically anything, like an organic internet, just all knowledge, all-knowing, all-powerful villain of pure necrosis and darkness. Imagine a more malicious Galactus. Imagine the most metal as fuck, hair just writhing Iggy Pop of pure evil. This creature, this god, this demon is everything that is the worst of the symbiotes. It is just all-consuming. It is a cancer, and that is who the villain is in Venom The Last Dance, which is absolutely insane. And he was invented by Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman. Full love to those two gents. It's only about 5 years old, this character, so if you want to check out Knull, it is in the Ryan Stegman illustrated, Donny Cates written run of Venom, and full credit to Donny Cates, man. He elevated what Venom had been, brought Venom back to the mainstream, became a much better character, and Knull's a huge part of that. Like, right now, Carnage is great because of the changeover with the symbiotes, the whole Clintar lore. We had symbiote dragons. We had so much rich mythology in that Donny Cates, Ryan Stegman love, so much love to them. Let's talk about the overall trailer. Now, this trailer is big and bombastic and crazy. It's got the Guardsman in it, very briefly, the Separation Anxiety Guardsman from that incredible Mark Bagley illustrated Venom run. They're popped in there real quick. We get another shot of Chiwetel Ejiofor, still confused how he ties in with, obviously, his Doctor Strange lore at Marvel. Also got a shot of Rhys Ifans, also confusing with his, Sony already starring as the Lizard. But the overall trailer has a lot more metamorphoses of symbiote creatures. We saw the horse before. Looks like we get a fish. Looks like we get a frog. We also have a lot more just overall symbiotes and Clintar landing on the planet. They're sent by Knull, sent by the creator. We get that very brief shot of Knull's chair. I think we're going to see them get sent here just to ravage humanity and Earth itself. It looks like this movie's a lot bigger. The comedy's still very much there. I love Eddie. I love the voice. I love that it's a love story. Like the to the end of the line element, like I'm with you to the end. The symbiote and Eddie love each other. I love that. It's going to be so funny. The humor is absolutely my jam. I think it looks beautiful. I think the symbiotes look fantastic. They've upped their game visually. Seeing more of these characters in the light. I love that this movie doesn't shy away from light. I love that it doesn't do crazy Paul Greengrassy shots and you can't tell what's going on. The action looks wide and powerful and well lit, so we can see what's going on. So in addition to Knull, the trailer itself has me excited. Again, the humor, the action, everything I want. Very excited for this. I love how much Tom Hardy loves Venom, and Tom Cruise is now confirmed canon in the Sony universe of Marvel characters. So that's exciting. But yeah, Tom Hardy loves this character. I love his love for this character. I love seeing all this. I love Venom. Very excited for this. It drops next month, and we get Knull. Who's playing him? Let me know if you think might be playing Knull in the comments below. Don't think it's going to be Iggy Pop, but I'd love to find out. I'm very curious. Let me know in the comments below who you think it's going to be. All right, on to more news.
All right, let's kick it off with that Spider-Man 4 news, because it is enormous news that I think has ramifications going backwards and forwards into the MCU. Now, first of all, Destin Daniel Cretton, I think, is the absolute perfect man for the job. Shang-Chi was one of the brightest lights out of Phase 4. It was one of the best new character introduction movies we've had in a very long time, and to me personally, had some of the most unique action in Marvel. I think that is so important for Spider-Man. I love those John Watts movies. I think No Way Home is, if not my favorite MCU movie, at least top 3. It is something that is near and dear to my heart, and I think John Watts has a lot more to say as a director than a lot of people give him credit for. That said, I do want some stylized action in a way that we haven't seen, in my opinion, from the MCU Spider-Man, like we did with the Amazing Spider-Man. We'll talk more about Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man in a bit, but I want to see some stylized web slinging, web swinging, web use, some action in that way, and I think that Destin Daniel Cretton is absolutely that guy. In addition to the action being absolutely pitch perfect, this also seems to be the answer to the two problems it seems like we've had with Marvel and Sony. Sony, from what we heard, the rumor was, wanted another giant multiversal movie, something huge in scope, whereas Marvel, rumor had it, wanted a grounded, grittier, smaller, more contained Spider-Man story that we haven't honestly really seen yet. Spider-Man Homecoming, immediately he wanted to be an Avenger and Iron Man was in it. Only a few minutes of screen time, it's like 20 minutes, but it feels very Avengers-y. And then in the sequel, they went to Europe, and obviously he ended up in space in Avengers. The Spider-Man story hasn't gotten to be very friendly neighborhood since he saved that bike and ate the churro. We want that. So this, to me, seems like, with Shang-Chi being a movie about two worlds, a good way to balance. Maybe this is Sony and Marvel finding a way, through this director, to do both. And we've heard rumors lately that it's a grounded story with multiversal elements. One, what does that mean? We'll have to find out. But two, this directing choice, I think, could balance those things if that's the way we're going. What intrigues me the most is, in addition to Tom Holland being rumored to be running around filming something in secret with that Instagram post of his, that a lot of us, including me, were like, are they already quietly filming Spider-Man 4? With this director announcement, I'm wondering if that was a screen test. I'm wondering if that was something for Venom 3. I doubt it, because it comes out next month. I don't think they could squeeze much in. But what if that screen test, or whatever they were doing, was opposite a villain? What if, in bringing Destin Daniel Cretton on, they had a story that they all kind of agreed on, and they're bringing something to fruition, and they needed someone like Tom Holland to test opposite? I'm really curious what this means, and does this mean no Shang-Chi 2? Because I think what the original Avengers 5 plan was kind of completing the Shang-Chi trilogy. I think it was going to be Shang-Chi 1, quickly into Shang-Chi 2, and then Destin Daniel Cretton was attached to both Shang-Chi 2 and Avengers 5, which at the time was called Kang Dynasty. It is now called Doomsday. So they've completely scrapped that idea. Writers have left the project. He, as a director, left the project. So this is a completely different Avengers 5. I think originally Shang-Chi was supposed to be one of the main figureheads of Marvel's 4, 5, and 6 phases, and that was going to lead him to be kind of a lead amongst the Avengers in the Avengers film. Because Avengers obviously is huge. Infinity War, Endgame, they're all huge, but you still have the trio of the Holy Trinity of Marvel in the MCU with Cap, Thor, and Iron Man. We didn't really have that as a centerpiece because of all of the variables and all the things that have happened in the world these last 5 years. I think originally it was supposed to be Shang-Chi, and I think that Destin Daniel Cretton was kind of the Russo brothers. The Russo brothers did Winter Soldier into Civil War, into Avengers 3 and 4. I think it was going to be similar with Shang-Chi into Shang-Chi 2, into Avengers 5. Since all of that fell apart, we haven't seen Shang-Chi at all since his film, but we haven't really seen a lot of the Wong element playoff with him assembling a team. We haven't seen a lot of the things that felt very set up at the time. And I think the problem was, I believe Kang was going to be the thing that tied in the 10 rings to Miss Marvel's bangles, to a lot of the artifacts in the Eternals. And now that they've struck the Eternals 2 altogether, they're kind of separating from, it seems, all of those intricately tied things tied to Kang, because it doesn't seem like Kang's coming back whatsoever after the events of Loki Season 2 because of the real-life events with Jonathan Majors. So I'm curious if this is a way to retroactively give Destin Daniel Cretton the closest thing to an Avengers film possible, because the Russo brothers are now doing the next two Avengers films, and that's Spider-Man. Spider-Man is the biggest thing next to an Avengers film. It's another billion-dollar franchise, and this seems to me like a way to do a giant film in scope, but hopefully have more of those grounded elements, just like Shang-Chi did. So I think this means potentially no Shang-Chi 2 at all, but I also think this means the end of Avengers 6, Secret Wars, ends everything. I think they might be just done with these characters as we know them. I'm thinking that because a lot of the actors aren't playing the roles anymore. A lot of these actors are doing like their one last rides. We know that Chris Hemsworth wants to do Thor 5, but then after that, I don't know how much he'd really want to keep going forever. We've seen actors talk about whether or not the audience wants them anymore, like Brie Larson, who is also supposed to be one of those big fixtures of Phase 4, 5, and 6. I don't know how much Tom Holland wants to play this character forever. I think it'd be a really interesting thing to literally use Secret Wars to eliminate everything except maybe Fantastic Four. Wait to bring in the X-Men fully until after Secret Wars. Have the old guard of X-Men as your X-Men in Secret Wars. That's why I think they were originally going to be in Deadpool and Wolverine. I think all the flashbacks Wolverine didn't show originally had those characters in them, and I think they're saving the X-Men and their big comeback. How do you go bigger than Deadpool and Wolverine? It's the same problem as how do you get bigger than No Way Home? You have to keep escalating if these sequels are going to get bigger and bigger, and with Secret Wars, it's going to be every Fox character, every Sony character, but I think that might be the end. I think we might be nearing the end of Tom Holland's tenure as Spider-Man. I think Shang-Chi might not get a second movie because of this announcement. I think this could mean quite a bit of this is going to be a fresh, clean slate like they do in the comics. This might be their new 52. This might be their ultimate universe. This might be, hey, new universe starts after Secret Wars. Maybe Fantastic Four, The Maker, the Court of Reeds, all of those things might be the things that hold over, but this is just tinfoil hat theory, who knows. Now, speaking of Spider-Man 4 itself, the singular movie, I'm wondering now, with this director, I wonder if we get martial arts because of the Shang-Chi fighting style in the magic of Spider-Man, because Spider-Man fighting a martial artist would be absolutely incredible with the way he moves. And does that mean we finally get Mr. Negative? Because I would love a Mr. Negative in a Spider-Man movie, and with his origin, it is a little more grounded. I would love, maybe the Feast Foundation is honoring Aunt May, and we find out, what this character is. He's not the benevolent guy that people see. He's actually this gangster, Mr. Negative. And I think Spider-Man not having any friends in the MCU, him being trapped in New York, that would be a grounded New York story with a New York villain that could set up leading to Kingpin. Kingpin could be pulling the strings of Mr. Negative in this film, and Kingpin's the big bad, especially after the events of Daredevil. So I think with this director, we could get Mr. Negative. We've also recently got rumors that Steven Yeun is back to circling the MCU. He was originally Sentry. There was creative differences / scheduling issues. It seems like a mix of things happened with him playing Sentry. He's no longer Sentry in Thunderbolts, but at the time he said he was still interested in Marvel, a lot of people scoffed. It seems like he's back to having those conversations. So maybe Steven Yeun is Mr. Negative, and that is going to be something that Tom Holland was working on when that photo came out, and that is also something tying into Destin Daniel Cretton in this movie. It'd be cool to see Mr. Negative. I'm curious if that's how it shakes out, because things seem to be going that way. I also think there were talks to have Mr. Negative in other properties not that long ago, and that didn't work out. So this could be the way to use a character, because Sony often has characters where it didn't work out in one movie, they push him to the next, like they did with Vulture. It was going to be Spider-Man 4, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 4, and then Vulture ended up the villain of Spider-Man Homecoming. Kraven was originally going to be the villain for Spider-Man No Way Home. Kraven got a solo movie. So with Mr. Negative being rumored for so many other things, I could see him as the villain of Spider-Man 4, and I would love to see some martial arts awesomeness thanks to Destin Daniel Cretton. Very excited for this director choice. Very excited to find out if any of my crazy theories are true. I just think with Shang-Chi 2 not being talked about at D23 or San Diego Comic-Con, that movie might be gone. And if one of your big leads of this new era of Marvel doesn't get a second movie, does that mean they're kind of just tidying things up because they're quietly trying to make things a smaller amount of properties, which could mean fresh reset, 1 or 2 movies a year, new cast for everybody? We'll see. Also, bring in Miles Morales. I think I think that might be how Tom Holland ends his tenure. Might actually kill Spider-Man in a movie, and then Miles Morales, that's his origin, that legacy character. All of this conjecture, harebrained theories. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. What do you think of Destin Daniel Cretton in general being brought on, and what do you think of my insane theories that this might mean? I'm very curious your thoughts. Oh, and one last crazy idea. Multiversal elements in a grounded story. What if this somehow ties into Beyond the Spider-Verse in any way whatsoever? I highly doubt it, but I do think that's the way to escalate. I talked about escalation earlier. Things have to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Where do you go bigger than across the Spider-Verse? I think you bring in live-action Spider-Man. What if that was the thing that Tom Holland was shooting? What if Beyond the Spider-Verse, which had some rumors pop up this week that wasn't going to be released till 2027, and then the filmmakers themselves were like, none of that's happening, but then the rumors were like, well, wouldn't they have to say that? They're working on the film. They won't want people to be, concerned. It was a lot. I don't like to report on rumors, especially ones that are like people fighting online, so I'm not really invested in that. But what I am invested in is what if Tom Holland was shooting something for Spider-Verse. Now, he was also on the Universal lot, which doesn't bode well for that rumor, but it'd be awesome if Beyond the Spider-Verse somehow tied into Spider-Man 4, and that's part of the way all of this comes together, because that is a very multiversal concept that could be used in a grounded way with Destin Daniel Cretton Spider-Man 4. We will see. But speaking of multiversal Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield is doing a rom-com with Florence Pugh that I'm very excited for. It is, you've probably seen the memes of this crazy horse. This poor film is a dramatic rom-com, and this horse, at least it's getting press, right? It's working. So this film he's doing press for right now, but of course, he played Spider-Man. So he's gonna inevitably be asked a ton of Spider-Man questions, and people were asking, is he coming back for Spider-Man 4? And he had two interesting quotes that I thought maybe they both kind of go in either direction. One to Screen Rant, he said, it's kind of endless what can be done with that character. Not that we should, not that we will, but you can always find another story to tell. Love the optimism there. But then he also told Total Film, the internet is a big place and a lot of people will say anything to get clicks. So one of these seems like he is open to the idea. And he said as much. I think he would love to play Spider-Man again. I know how much he loves that character. The other one is, don't believe everything you read. We don't know if he's in Spider-Man 4. It just got a director. I don't know if they know fully what's going to be in Beyond the Spider-Verse or Spider-Man 4 or any of these things going together. So if you've heard rumors of Tobey Maguire teaming up with Wolverine in Secret Wars and Andrew Garfield and Spider-Man 4, I think just wait and see until things feel a little more solid. So those are the Spider-Man news in the mainstream stuff, but there's a small Spider-Man property that not nearly enough people are talking about, and that is Spider-Man Noir. A while ago, I think like 2 months ago, I didn't realize I reported on something that was a rumor. As I said, I don't like reporting on rumors, but it was officially confirmed as not a rumor. Brendan Gleeson is playing a villain in Spider-Man Noir. I think he was confirmed as a cast member. Maybe the official is that he's a villain. Brendan Gleeson, one of my favorite actors of Banshees of Inisherin, In Bruges, Harry Potter, Paddington. Brendan Gleeson, Spider-Man Noir, confirmed as a villain. I could not be more excited for this. It is a live-action Spider-Man Noir. It is produced by Lord & Miller. It stars Lamorne Morris as Robbie Robertson, Nicolas Cage as Ben Reilly, I assume because of legal issues, they can't call him Peter Parker. All sorts of curiosities about this Elseworld show, but that Humphrey Bogart-ish Spider-Man is getting a live-action show with Nick Cage starring Spider-Man Noir, also starring Brendan frickin' Gleeson. Your boy's excited. He's a villain, I think. Doc Ock, because he'd make a great Doc Ock. That is going to do it for all the bevy of Spider-Man news. Also want to give some love to John Bernthal, who won his first Emmy for The Bear for that episode Fishes. Well deserved. That dude is such a powerhouse, such a good human, and also, I think, the best Punisher that we've ever had, or will ever have. John Bernthal, so stoked for that Emmy. The Bear is incredible. And lastly, Kendrick Lamar is doing the Super Bowl halftime show. If I did any mainstream pop culture show that wasn't specifically about comics, that would have been the headline. But Kendrick Lamar doing the Super Bowl halftime show. I'm so excited. Let's talk about some comics. My favorite comics from last week, the week of September 4th, were, first up, we've got Absolute Power number 3. This is the big event over at DC Comics wherein Amanda Waller has depowered most of the heroes over at DC, and those heroes are fighting back using their wits, using their experience, using all sorts of things, but most of them don't have powers. Gives some very interesting reasoning behind Amanda Waller's whole campaign. I mean, it's a very known character, but you get into her backstory a bit more. You get to see how these heroes do without powers. Also, just, it feels like an event. It's a very solid book over at DC Comics. Issue 3, also great. Then we've got Animal Pound number 5. This concludes the miniseries from Tom King. This is a George Orwellian nightmare. It's also a remake of George Orwell's Animal Farm, and it's with today's politics. I know people don't like to talk about politics, but this is a show about art because comics are art, and art reflects the world, and a lot of times art gets political. I won't talk about this particular book, so it'll offend a lot of people, but you should read this particular book because it does an incredible job using Animal Farm in a modern way with our current political climate, and it's very tongue-in-cheek, and there's a lot of genius references, and the story itself is delightful. Highly recommend Animal Pound. Then we've got Exceptional X-Men #1. This is such a good relaunched X-Men title. Krakoa age has ended. Now we're getting a whole bunch of new #1s. Uncanny's on issue 2 this week. I think regular X-Men titles on issue 3. It's very early on. Now is a great time to get into X-Men. This issue #1 is an exceptional issue to jump into. It is Kitty Pryde leading an X-Men team, and I love that this is a slice of life issue. This is basically what Kitty Pryde got into when Krakoa fell. It's her trying not to be a hero and her falling back into that world. Some really cool slice of life stuff leading to some superhero team up stuff. Cool mutant ability. It's just, yeah, check this issue out. Then we've got Holy Roller #8. This is from Rick Remender and Andy Samberg. Yes, that Andy Samberg, writing with Deadly Class's own Rick Remender. This is about a dude who joined the Special Forces, came back to his small town, and it was overtaken by white supremacists, and him, as a Jewish person, not being so cool with that, and him basically using his Special Forces powers, plus his love of bowling, to take out those assholes. It is satire, it is so funny, it is also a great Capes book. It's a great commentary in Capes books. While being a good Capes book, highly recommend Holy Roller. It's every bit the absurd thing it sounds like it is, and it's really well done. Then we've got My Adventures with Superman #4. This is the Jack Quaid voice Superman show, but the comic canon of that. So this takes place between season 1 and season 2 of My Adventures with Superman, the show that's on HBO right now. And this particular issue is a Christmas-centric issue, and it's so sweet about him with the Kents, about his relationship with Lois and Jimmy, all tied into some big superhero fight stuff, and a certain robot learning the power of Christmas. It is just, it's the heartwarm you want from a Superman book. Then we've got another new exciting #1 this week. It is Plastic Man No More #1. I love Plastic Man. He's one of my favorite characters. This is a #1, which means you can jump in right here. It's a creative retelling of his origin. It's also a very accessible book for the DC Universe in general. It's really funny. Plastic Man is very quippy, but the humor comes from a dark place. They really navigate that well. It really deals with how Plastic Man is seen by Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman and the overall Justice League, as well as the DC Universe at large, civilians in the DC Universe. This is just a really good jumping on point, and I missed Plastic Man. I'm glad he's back. Plastic Man No More. Find out why. No more. It's also a really cool what's going to happen ticking time bomb book. From an issue 1 to an anniversary issue, we've got Poison Ivy 25. I say anniversary, but it's not technically, because that'd be 12, then it'd be 24. But you know, in comics, 25, 50, they're all big deals. 25 is a big deal. It is a book that I've loved from issue 1. G. Willow Wilson is writing the hell out of Poison Ivy and has been for over 2 years now. This book is exceptional. It's the denouement after a big cataclysmic villain fight. It is all the heart of Poison Ivy. It's her relationship with Harley. It's her dynamic of the little team she's built with Solomon Grundy, Killer Croc, and a couple of regular people on the swamp. It's so fun, and it's still, Poison Ivy, at the end of the day, is someone that has done a lot wrong, but she's doing it in her mind, and a lot of people's minds, for the right reasons, and I love the humanity in this book. Check out Poison Ivy. Issue 25 is a decent jumping on point, and then issue 26 is probably a brand new jumping on point with a new arc. Really dug this issue and some cool anthology stuff at the end. One of my favorite books on the shelves right now, we got Public Domain #8. This is a book wherein a family gets the rights back to make an iconic superhero in comics again, as the rights are sold in movies to the artist. So the writer and the artist, picture Stan Lee and a Jack Kirby or a Steve Ditko fighting over rights of this classic character. One gets to publish, one gets to make movies, and it's about the world of monetizing these characters, modernizing these characters, the comic industry as a whole. It is so niche. I cannot believe how specific it is. Can't believe it exists. It is written and illustrated by Chip Zdarsky, and it's so funny, so human, so raw, such good family elements, but all about comics. It's a book that's a love letter to the comic industry, warts and all, and it's a really good commentary on the importance of not commodifying everything. Just check out Public Domain. Go back to issue 1, but issue 8 especially made me laugh and sad. It does all the things. And finally, Ultimates #4. What an issue. This book is insane. This issue is so dense. It deals with thinking in a fourth dimension, deals with multiversal theory and a lot of things happening simultaneously across the multiverse, and it deals with how Reed is operating fourth dimensionally, and that might tie into how Doom would be operating fourth dimensionally, which might eventually tie into how Downey Jr. is Doom when we know him as Iron Man. If that sounds confusing, I had to read this comic twice. It's real good. I really enjoyed it, but man, is it dense, and I love when a comic can be dense and also just a traditional mainstream comic. So Ultimates number 4, heady, good science stuff. Beautiful art, too, by Phil Noto. Gorgeous art. Phil Noto's work here, absolutely fantastic. That is going to do it for my favorite books from last week. Those are my favorite books I read last week for the week of September 4th. These are my favorite 9. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these. I really want to know. As I say every week, comic stuff doesn't do as well as movie stuff, so the likes, the comments, the engagement, all that stuff helps these videos out even a little bit more, because I really want to be a voice for comics themselves, and a lot of people don't make them, because I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. These videos make about $3, sometimes $4. And that is on about an hour. I film for about 45 minutes, and then I edit for about 4 hours. So it's a big time chunk at less than $1 an hour. So any comments or likes or anything, bye-bye. Also, I never talk about it, but I have a Patreon. If you guys want to know the comics that I don't love, I rate every single comic. I don't shit talk them, but if there's a comic that got like a D or a C, or even a B-, just doesn't make the top 9, my Patreon is like whatever you want to pay. It's $5 to $50. Literally just $5. One comic is the cost of the whole month, so if I save you from buying one comic, it pays for itself. And I also rate all the movies I see, so everyone that thinks I love everything, head on over to Patreon. You can see that I don't love everything, I just don't make reviews about stuff I don't like, because I don't see spending 5 hours on stuff I didn't enjoy. Beetlejuice notwithstanding, if it's big, sometimes I dive in. I digress. Patreon/KoiJandro, $5, $10, whatever you want to throw over at Patreon. You get all of these and the stuff, the other 40 books or whatever. Check it out, Patreon. Head on over there. Let's talk about the new comics this week, the week of September 11th, the comics you can find at your local comic shop right now. After that call to action at Patreon, I checked the analytics. I make about $12 on the This Big of Comics videos, so a little better. I make like $1.50 an hour, not 50 cents an hour, but still, any Patreons are very appreciated, and I don't do this for money. I'm just saying that's why I want the likes and the comments. Let's grow this beast. Much love. Send it to your comic friends. They might want to see comics that are coming out. Anyway, the comics that are coming out on September 11th, yesterday, 2024, available at your local comic shop right now, starting with Marvel, only because that's the most books I'm pulling from. It's by order of how many books I'm pulling from each publisher. From Marvel, we've got The Amazing Spider-Man 57. We've got Avengers Assemble number 1, good jumping on point if you're an Avengers fan. Blood Hunters number 2, Captain America 13, Fantastic Four 25, my favorite Fantastic Four run of all time, hits that big old 25th issue. We've got Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider number 5 with that cool homage cover. Spider-Man Reign 2 number 3. It's the second Spider-Man Reign, but it's the issue 3 of that second volume. Star Wars number 50, big old anniversary issue, as well as Star Wars Inquisitors number 3. Ultimate Black Panther number 8. Uncanny X-Men number 2. Again, good time to get into the X-Men, not far into these runs. Vengeance of the Moon Knight number 9. Venom number 37, as well as Venom Carnage